Progress.
What's up, Tony?
Hey, Steve. How are you doing?
Good. I am going to be listening in today because I'm training clients. So
Okay. Awesome.
for some reason, Fridays are just like slam busy for me.
Yeah, no. I literally just got back from intro, so I hear you there.
Yeah. So I got two personals. I got a new client coming in, signing up. So I'll just be listening in today.
Awesome. Yeah, and if you want to chime in at any point, feel free to. But we'll just assume that you're just listening in.
Okay. Yeah. I'll pop in from time to time if I hear something or whatnot.
Cool. Yeah, that works out.
Yeah, I got to reach out to what was her name? Annie yesterday. That she's like 20 minutes from me.
Amy.
Amy, yes. We got to reach out to her.
Yeah, Amy Williams, I believe.
I had some old clients, I think, go to her gym. So I'll reach out to her. I think she just had a competition this past weekend. So
yeah, that's
pretty
cool.
cool.
That close. Because I know, I forget who it was exactly. Was it maybe Rachel? But she went and visited Christian's gym, and like they gave each other feedback and everything. So that's kind of a cool thing.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be awesome. My space here at the gym is not what we had it before, but it works. So I'm like, well, saving me money, saving overhead. It works. Can't beat it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, at this point, it might just be you and me.
I'll be listening and chiming in. I think some people are coming in.
Yeah, I think so. I got
3:15.
3:15. I was a little early. You got yours. You got Fred, Kapua, Jessica, 19. I think there was also Estefania's. Yeah.
And I follow NC Fit, and they have everything in the back end, which I pull that information from. I just make it my own. Once the class gets going, I just roll with it.
Yeah, and that's something that we'll talk about too, because CAP does the same thing. They give basically a full lesson plan, and I actually did this as coaching development with my coaches. And I don't know, there was just like a couple of weeks where it was just shit, where it was like stupid things where like, all right, we're gonna work on, or the workout is hang power cleans, burpees, and box jumps, and we're gonna do 10 minutes of rope climb practice. And I was like, why? Like it's rope climbs aren't even coming up in the week. I was like, why are we doing this? Why are we wasting 10 minutes on when we could be teaching box jumps and burpees and like the hang power clean?
Yeah.
So I did a whole like programming thing with them. Like, here's a CAP workout that I modified significantly. How would you change the lesson plan from what's given?
And what Jay says too. I mean, a lot of what NC Fit puts, like, I mean, I have to modify it because it just doesn't fit the hour. So I'm telling my coaches same thing. It's like we have to, when we come into our coaches meetings, we pick out what's important, and then basically like, okay, well, this is how the day's gonna look. We have to take that out because we just will run over time. Oh, but we could spend a little bit more time here since we took that, say, 10-minute block out and things like that. So it's definitely helped out in that way. But it's nice to see that lesson plan, so we all have ideas.
Oh yeah, and like I think they say is if you're given the lesson plans or the information from something, 75% of it's probably good, but then there's that other 25 where you're gonna have to modify it for your equipment, for your members. Like today we had strict muscle ups, and I think we have maybe like 2 people who can do strict muscle ups in my gym. So I was like, I'm not going to do the transition drill and everything because it wanted to be a challenging pull. It's like, well, we're just going to work on strict pull-ups and strict chest to bar today. Like we don't need to work on muscle I'll give that to those two people who know how to do them. And then like everyone else can just, they don't need to sit there and watch.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. We have overhead squats in the workout today, and I made the two people that showed up this morning, I had them sweating and working so hard with that PVC that, I mean, they just couldn't put a bar overhead. So I was like, dude, PVC all day. And I mean, I had them literally sweating and working for that whole hour. I was happy with it.
Well, and I think all of you guys can remember when you took your level 1, I mean, they didn't have you weighted with anything other than a front PVC pipe. And I tell you, man, like front racks with the PVC pipe for all those front squats that we had to do, I was sore after my first level 1.
Yep.
All right. So we got Estefania, we got Kapua, we got Jessica. Who else? So Steven's going to be joining us, but not on the video. He's got some people in there. Fred, I think we might be waiting on. He submitted a lesson plan, and then Sarah V potentially. I got two different computers going. I got 317 on this one. I got 315 on my desktop, 317 on my phone. So I guess we'll get started. If we got any stragglers coming in, we'll catch them up. So welcome everybody. Second week. Did anybody watch the video from the first run through? I know Kapua, you were there when we first did.
Video from the first round. Yeah, the first session.
I watched it in preparation for this and was like, oh man, 2 years ago, I've come a long way.
Oh, like the first round of coaches development.
Yeah.
Steven said he watched it.
Yeah, Steven said he watched it. Yeah. So if you didn't watch it, there's a couple things that we want to go over today. The first of which is the question that was posed was, what is our service to our athletes? And the idea is it's delivering the class experience. Like we're here to make that hour there's arguments over whether or not this is true or not, but the best hour of their day. So it should be fun. It should be all that. And there's a couple ways that we talked about doing it. And there was a bunch of talk about the why and sprinkling your why in, letting your members know what your why is. I think that's all fair and well. But what we're going to focus mostly on today is dog's whining, is what that class service is and what makes it what it is. And so there's two things that really come into play. It's the intangibles and the tangibles for how we define if a class is a success, if it's a good class, if we're providing a quality service. And so the tangibles is like starting your class on time, ending your class on time, running it according to your timeline. And that's what's going to be the big focus of our call for the second half here, is going over some timelines. And the other ones, the intangibles, these are the things that are kind of hard to measure. And so Jay went through, and we kind of talked about on that first call, a bunch of different things that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 things written down that we'll talk about for intangibles on how you can define if that class experience was a good one or not. And so the first one that I want to talk about was welcoming your members. And I believe everybody here should do this, but whenever you're coaching, everybody should be greeted by their name and, a little bit of chit chat, right? Obviously, if they're rolling in right at the end of, or right as class is starting and you're in the middle of the whiteboard brief, you can't do it. But even if I have people running late and middle of the whiteboard brief, I will stop my whiteboard brief and be like, hey, Jessica, thanks for joining, hop on in. And then I'll continue right with that whiteboard brief. So, I mean, I think everybody likes to hear their names, maybe not in that situation, like, the walk of shame coming in late, but say their names. So welcome everybody to class. And then one of the big things that we talked about was, if you forget somebody's name, own it, right? Just be like, oh, sorry. Hey, I forgot your name. I know we talked yesterday. What's your name again? That way, don't make it weird. And I don't know about you guys, but we have people sign in on Wodify or reserve ahead of time. And so you're going to see people's names. So like when we have drop-ins, we know ahead of time. Now the issue is if you have multiple drop-ins, you're like, are you Jessica? Or are you Kapua? You don't know, but you can just kind of ask them for that. And if you're a drop-in, I think they expect that. But just welcome them by name is going to be the first one. And then Taylor, coming off of that one is say everyone's name often. And how often do you guys think we should say their names throughout class? I have my number in the head. You can chime in and say why you think it. 5 times, says Stephen.
Yeah, I say like 5 plus or 5
Mhm.
times. 5 different sections of class. Make sure you catch everybody in all of those sections.
Yeah. What about you, Jessica? Agree?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, make sure you say it during the warm up, maybe at some point during the workout, beginning of class, like 5 times, like what Steve said.
Yeah, and like this is something that like Kapua, Stephen, we talked about. Was it Tuesday? No, sorry, Wednesday with Ryan. That was one of the things we tracked when we were coaching each other was how many times did we say each other's names? And a good rule of thumb is if you're going to give somebody a cue, use their name. That way, they know that it's directed at them, but then it also gets them that touch point so you can kind of say your names. And this is one of those things where intangibles are hard to measure, but you can measure how many times you say somebody's name. And so I think Jay said, just have somebody, one of your coaches who's not there, just like literally sit in the corner and just check off every single time you hear somebody's name, and you can assess yourself to see how well you do that. That's one of the things that I evaluate my coaches on is whether they say everyone's name, in each part of each class. So that's a big thing for us. And it's a thing that people struggle with. I struggled with it at first, but now it's just so second nature. I don't even have to think about it anymore. So just, you got to get out of your comfort zone and just do it if that's not something you're comfortable doing. And I think it makes the whole class experience better because everyone likes to hear their name. Cool. I guess that's the third thing then, going along with that is learn about your members. So say their names, but then learn about them. So this is the first time that we heard that concept of FORD in the group. So FORD stands for family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And I would say that it is, that person well enough if you know all 4 of those things. If you don't know one of those things, then you need to learn those things. That's a great opportunity to dive in, say their name, and then ask them where that would be, whatever ones you don't know. Now, where would this be a great time to learn about people's FORD? What would be the best time in class to do that?
We do like a question of the day. And lots of times you learn a lot about people. We did like, what's your first job? Like that kind of thing. And then the other time we'll sprinkle it in is during the cool down, right? When people are kind of chatting.
Yeah, and Jessica threw in their general warm up. Can you elaborate on how you would go about doing that?
Like it depends if maybe we're starting off, everybody's doing like 2 minutes on the Echo bike, and they're just going easy pace. I might walk around and just ask people about something that I know they've done, like how did the football game go last night or whatever. Something they could answer without having to think too much.
Yeah, no, that's great. Because then
Stuff like, nothing like too detailed, but just, about the kids or, some kind of question that's easy to answer.
Well, and that clues you in as to how they're feeling that day too.
Yeah.
Those of us that are following CAP, I think, did you follow CAP, Jessica?
No.
Okay. Who does? In a couple of weeks, she'll find out. This week has been rough. So people have been just obliterated. So that's a good way to kind of check in, but also learn about them at the same time.
Mhm.
I was going to say that a great time to learn about the FORD is like 15 minutes before class starts. So that's like part of another thing that you can measure. But you should always be there early for obvious reasons. But this is the perfect time to interact with your athletes before the workout starts. And that's where you can really dive into, it's just me and Steven here. What are we going to talk about?
Yeah.
Hey, Stephen, what do you do for a living? You know, that kind of stuff. You can dive in and get some conversation stuff going there. And that's stuff where coupling that with Jessica's thing, where it's like you find out about, say, what he does one day, in the warm up the following day or the following week, be like, hey, how did that thing go? You know, you found out he's a real estate agent. Did you close on that house? That kind of thing. So those are things that you can kind of just build, and that helps build rapport with your athletes as you're going through that. And then I like in the cool down as well. I think Kapua, did you say that? Because yeah, you're cooling down. Let's talk about, hey, what are you guys going to eat for breakfast? And then when you find out about that, you're like, oh, so and so's a chef. Tell us more about that. You know, whatever that might be. So those are all good places for that. I would say anywhere but the specific and workout. Well, maybe you never know.
Or during the whiteboard brief. We're really trying to get people to like keep the whiteboard brief, like brief about the workout instead of like trailing on into all of our announcements, which could take forever. So just trying to get people to change, or our coaches to change up. Like when it's the whiteboard brief, like tell them what the workout is and let them focus on that. And then it's your job to not forget the question of the day later on during the stretch and sprinkle forward through other areas, right?
Yeah. And you can even do it after class too. And I just thought of that too. But yeah, anywhere but the whiteboard brief, the specific, and the workout. I think that's a good consensus there. And then one other thing I had written down from that, that goes like hand in hand with the Ford, is just what Chuck always says, is ask one more question. And that goes for, you know, all things. Hey, I need to scale today. Well, why? Well, I don't really feel like doing the RX weight. Well, why? You know, you just dig in, you can find out why they're actually feeling that way. Just ask one more question and you can really get somewhere. Let's see here. So I got two more things here with the intangibles, and this one is more like pushing people to be maybe a little bit more competitive. You know, how to get people to hit the intended stimulus is what I think the discussion was about. And we've gone over this before, but that really starts at the whiteboard brief. So making sure you have a solid whiteboard brief is a really good way to start off on the right foot. But then I had written down like giving people little tiny things for wins. So if it's a really advanced athlete, hey, you're going unbroken every single time. Or if it's an advanced athlete and they're looking for a challenge, hey, go unbroken every time, that kind of thing. Or potentially adding fractional plates to maybe have somebody, instead of going 55 pounds, they're doing 57 for that day. Just little things like that to build people's confidence can go a long way towards improving the class experience. Like case in point, yesterday we had jump ropes. We did Annie, and I got one of my athletes she got 4 double unders in a row, and it's her first time ever, and she was freaking psyched. And it was just like, no, you just got to jump and don't stop jumping, because she would always stop when she jumped. Just those little things right there. Like, I know she went home, she was covered in bruises, not bruises, in the slash marks and everything. But I guarantee you she went home and was like super psyched and told her husband like right away, like, I got 4 double unders, you know? So little things like that can go a long way towards improving that class experience. Yeah. And exactly what Steven said there, whiteboard brief sets it off. If you have a horrible whiteboard brief, people aren't going to know what the stimulus is. They're not going to know what they should be doing. And I think Jason has said this, but the key to assessing whether or not you had an effective whiteboard brief was seeing how many people in your class hit the intended stimulus. So that can be like something that you can do every single class, is look at the whiteboard and say, who got the intended stimulus? Ooh, 20% of people need to work on that, right? And so the whiteboard brief sets you off, but there are many things that you can do in the course of the workout, course of the warm up, to kind of help yourself get people into that intended stimulus. And we'll talk more about that in a second. And I guess the ultimate thing, and this is what he said, and I say this all the time too, is the end goal is to have every member leave your gym thinking, that was terrible, but I can't wait to come back. And that's what we want, is we want them rolling in the next day like, I am so sore, but I just couldn't not come to this workout. Like I wanted to do this. I wanted to be here. Cool. Any questions on those the intangible things that we talked about in that call? Okay. Yeah. And like, it's little things, but those little things make a big difference. So try as much as you can. Maybe see first off, am I doing these things? And if you find that you're not saying people's names, saying them enough, you don't know people's forwards, start small and gradually start to incorporate those, because I think you will see an improvement in people's attitudes and in the way that your classes are run. Awesome. Well, the rest of this call, then we're going to focus on the more tangible thing, which is the timeline. Now, the reason why we want to focus on that is because if we have a solid timeline, we don't need to worry about it, and we can focus more on the intangibles. So if we do a little bit of prep work ahead of time, we can then focus on making the class fun, saying people's names and learning their forwards, and not worrying about what am I going to do for this progression, or what is the next thing that I'm going to worry about. So with this, we always say discipline equals freedom. And so if you have it written down, you know what you can change, you know how much time you have, that's going to let you borrow time, end early, focus more time on one, or spend more time on one thing, because you know what, they're just not getting the kip swing of this pull up. I need to spend more time on this. I'm going to sacrifice this, some of my cool down time, because nobody does the cool down anyway. So we're going to, do this. So that's where the discipline equals freedom aspect comes in. You can move things around and run it according to how you need to. And like two other things I wrote down here, and this is one of the issues that I have with one of my coaches, is can you tell who is in charge? And if you walk into a class and it's, what is the phrase, dogs herding horses or something, or horses babysitting cows, whatever it is, nobody knows what's going on. The coach isn't leading the class effectively. That can really be fixed if you have a quality plan in place, because you know exactly what's going to happen. And then the other thing is move most of the hour. So the athletes aren't there to listen to us. So yeah, the whiteboard brief's kind of like our 2-3 minutes to shine. That's where we give our spiel. But after that, like most of the class is meant to be moving around. So let's talk about some things that need to be included in your whiteboard brief, and about how long they should whiteboard brief. There's one of them. What things should be included in your timeline, and about how long should they take? So I already kind of gave one away. So if anybody wants to run with that. Warm up and clean up. Sure. So with the cleanup, that would be like your cool down, clean up all the stuff. You have the warm up. Now there's really two different pieces there. You have your general and you have your specific, and we can talk more about that in a second.
I have a question.
Yeah. Go ahead,
So for some of the gyms that I've been a member of, they don't do a good job of scheduling or organizing the cool down. So it's after you do your workout, then it's clean up or roll out or something like that. But there isn't, what we learned through this program is that you should have about 5 to 10 minutes of a cool down, whether it's stretching or something really simple. But it's just interesting to me that this is the gym that I'm at now is probably like the third gym that I've been a part of, just because of moving. Do you have like thoughts on that? Or, have you seen that before? Or is that a quote unquote problem or something like that?
Yeah. And I'll let everybody else weigh in too, but I do think it is a crucial part of class. Main reason you get done with a crazy hard workout, you need to come back to homeostasis. You can't just get in your car and drive away. Cause like, how many times have you finished a workout and it gets worse the longer you rest?
Yeah.
You need to let it pass.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And this is the other thing that I wanted to bring up. So Stephen brought up, some days are really hard to get cooldowns in, just because of how much time there's crunched into, or how much stuff they have packed into that hour. So and I guess the question I would ask for you, Sarah, is the reason you're not doing a cooldown because it's part of like the gym culture and nobody just does it? Are they trying to fit too much stuff into the hour? Or is it just because there is a cool down planned, but the class is just so mismanaged that it just runs late and the cool down. So those are some three situations that I could see being in effect.
Yeah, those are
think a
good
lot-
points. Thank you.
A lot of times it has to do with creating that culture, right? Like
Mhm.
we did like
Yeah.
a general like assessment with our coaches, and we're like, how many people just walk out and like, well, then don't let them, like give them a walk down. And so, but it had to do with everybody doing it, right? Like everybody trying at least, and then being like an intentional thing, like, all right, put your barbells down, lay on the ground, and we're gonna stretch. But, and then letting them know that while you're captive, hey, we're gonna talk about stuff, we're gonna announce things. And so by getting some of our coaches to like cut the whiteboard short and add that stuff to the end, now it's like a necessary part of it, right? So besides the part of bringing them back to homeostasis and stretching them out, because they never do that at home, right?
Best
That's
intention.
true.
That's a good point, Kapua, too. I like that about bringing up announcements at the end. Now, how many people are actually going to be paying attention because maybe they're WOD drunk, but I like that too, because it does get them moving right away. Yeah. Anything else on like including cooldowns or success that you found with that? I know, I don't think he's in the group anymore, but I remember it was, what was his name? But he had a thing about that where it really helped like create the community, create the culture that he was looking for. I can't remember his name now. Anyways.
And then that right away is like cutting off almost 10 minutes of your class, right? If you want to intentionally include a cool down and a whiteboard brief, then like Steven said it right away, the brief and the cleanup, right? The two things that you include, and then you can build your timeline around that.
And another thing too, Sarah, and with Steven's point, I think a lot of programmers probably feel like, well, that's not important. And I'm just making a broad assumption. If we can get a part A and a part B and a part C and a part D at the expense of a cool down, let's do it because more is better. When in fact, better is better. And so maybe just going really hard for one workout and then having 10 minutes to cool down and maybe hop on a bike and do a little biking, or maybe do some Tabata sit-ups or Tabata flutter kicks or something like that. That's totally enough. And Mayhem throws a lot of stuff in their programming. Steven said NC Fit throws a lot in there. I know there's a lot of things out there that they just try to cram as much as they possibly can in. But in fact, I mean, one workout a day is plenty, in my opinion.
Yeah, I appreciate, all your thoughts on that. And just again, like, the culture that I've been a part of, it's been interesting to me to observe that and also learn through this development program that like cool down is essential. I mean, like we know our bodies are like already high, so we need to like bring them down to a level where we can walk out of the gym, not to get a cold or, not to get dizzy or something like that. So I totally agree with you all. So I appreciate your feedback.
Yeah, and you're gonna find too that we do things a little bit differently than most of the greater CrossFit world, and we do them better. We do it, but we do it better. So yeah.
I was part of a gym for a little while, but they didn't even run the warm up. They just had like 7 minutes of line drills. He jogged back and forth, and it was just so like lazy, blatantly like, come on, grab this group and get them moving. But it became the culture, right? People walked in and they just started doing their own thing until you're ready to teach them specific warm up, I guess. But like you said, Sarah, every gym's like a little different, right?
Yeah.
One of the issues that I run into is that whole like, don't clean up your stuff, like don't break your barbell down and stuff. But that's not part of our culture. Like I'm trying to change that, but if it's just me trying to change it and the other 6 coaches aren't, then it makes it difficult for that to become the regular thing. But that affects your cool down, because if they're all breaking their stuff down and people are still working out, they're going to leave and half the class isn't going to be there when they finish, So I have to like triage and figure out the best, what should I tackle first?
Mhm.
is getting all the other coaches on board with, you know, changing that. I don't even know how to change that when they've been doing it that way forever. You know, the whole don't clean up till all your friends finish type of thing.
We had that same issue at my gym. One thing that really helps is getting one member who's just really vocal to like pull them aside. And like for me, it's Darren. Like, hey, Darren, I want to do an experiment today. Like, hey, you're gonna, because he's loud, he cheers people on. It's like you're gonna get up and they're just not put your stuff away, but get up there and start cheering it on. And you're gonna be the only one. And it's gonna be weird as hell. But I want you to help me change this. I want people to cheer him on. And that way, maybe, like people will start to do that. Another
Yeah.
thing that I've done is I'll program cooldowns where they still need their barbell. So people with their barbell weights, like, no, we're using that still. Like, keep it out. Don't put your stuff away. Like,
That's
hang
good.
tight.
That makes me think of Chris Hinshaw. I was listening to him on a recent podcast and he was talking about the cool down for like using like your PVC, like if you're doing cleans, that you should be doing like PVC cleans after to like work all that out. So that kind of makes me think about what you said.
Yeah. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
doing heavy deadlifts, like keep the bar out. We're going to do
Yeah.
hip thrusts with the bar,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
like that, where
Yeah.
they still need to keep all the stuff out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Kind of depends on the type of workout too, right? I taught like 4 days this week and I probably like nailed 2 of them with the cool down. And then 2 of them, they were more like, if you got everybody to hit the stimulus, then everyone's done, you know, and then I think we had a bunch of timed out rounds this week too. So when you have those timed out rounds, everybody's done at 8:45. So clean up a little bit and lay down, we're stretching out, as opposed to like today, we did the push press. I actually did the one that I wrote the whiteboard up for, or the timeline for. And it's just a lot of stuff. And this people finished and did not get the stimulus across the right way, right? And then it made it a lot harder to have a cool down when I'm letting 2 people finish the workout, right? Kind of depends on the type of workout.
Yeah. And then there's always the person who's like, I gotta go. Like, I gotta get home, shower, I got a flight, I gotta get to. And that's, you know, that's fine. Because I'll usually tell the person, leave your stuff out, I'll clean it up for you. Just sneak out, see you later, you know. So don't force people to do a cool down if they do like, hey, I gotta go. Or it's like, you know what, if they want to leave, it's their hour. Let them leave. But let's make sure that they're not blatantly putting their stuff away in front of everybody as they walk out 10 minutes early.
Yeah. And sometimes it looks just like me going over to the wall, like if we don't have a lot of time and I'll throw your legs up on the wall, you know, and everybody just come do this. And maybe that's all that they do, but at least they're doing something. But
yeah, and it gives you a chance to like touch point with them before they head out for the day.
yeah.
Which is nice. Cool. So that's, I mean, we talked a lot about the cool down here. That's definitely one thing that we need to talk about. And as Kapua said, that kind of is one of your anchor points. Like, put it in your timeline as something that we need to cover. And then the whiteboard brief, Stephen mentioned, we talked about too. So that's the front and the end. What is one other thing that's you need to put in your timeline and give yourself some time for, no matter what?
Like a bathroom break.
Definitely. Yep.
Nervous pee.
Nervous pee. We had Annie yesterday. I increased my my bathroom break time from 3 minutes to 6 minutes because we only had 2 bathrooms, and there's going to be a line.
You have to say, for all the moms in the room, you guys go to the bathroom.
Yep. Got to throw it in there, because if you don't put it in there, everybody has to do it. And if you do give yourself 6 minutes for some people to pee, nobody's going to want to do it. You can't win. But it's best to put that time in for that. The other thing, yeah, Steven got there too. The other thing that I like to throw in there too is just like some random transition times depending on the workout. So if you look at what your warm-up is, you look at what the specific warm-up is, you look at what the workout is. For instance, you get done with your whiteboard brief and then you talk about the warm-up, and there's boxes in the warm-up. If those boxes aren't set up ahead of time, you need to allot, the 1-2 minutes for those boxes to be set up. Because I don't know about you guys, but sometimes that 5:15 a.m. class is just moving slow. And it takes 3 minutes to get the warm up set up. And then that's 3 minutes gone. So either set up ahead of time or throw in some transition times in there, like grab barbells or stuff like that. Cool. And then we had general warm up. I think we talked specific warm up. Yeah. Steven says he had some slow people this morning. We did too. What is the one thing that we haven't talked about yet that you definitely need to include in your whiteboard or in your whiteboard brief, in your timeline?
Workout.
Yeah. That's the most obvious one right there. And we'll talk more about this, but when you put the cool down in there, you obviously have your workout next, and that's kind of what sets your pre-workout bathroom break. And that kind of sets up how much time you have left for everything else for that. Now, the longer the workout, the shorter the warm-up. That makes sense. Have you guys ever combined your general and specific warm-up into one? Kapua is nodding.
Tony, could you go back to the point of what you said just like a little bit ago? And can you explain that a little more?
What was that? I forget already.
That the warm up, if your warm up is slow, then the workout is going to be slow, or the timing of that. Could you explain that a little bit more?
Definitely. So if you have, let's say, so Jason used this example in the call. If you have Murph and you're doing it in our class, like your warm up is basically look left, look right, 3, 2, 1, go. Because it's a 50-minute workout for most people, or more, depending on who you are. And there's just almost no time to warm up. So if you have, let's say, Fran, which is going to be for most people, we're looking for 5 to 7 minutes, net cap of 10, let's say. You have 40 minutes of class minus your warm up, minus your cool down, your whiteboard brief, and the workout to do your general warm up and your specific warm up. That's a lot of time. You have a 40-minute workout. Now you only have 10 minutes of warm up because you got your cool down and your whiteboard brief. And that's where it makes sense sometimes to combine your general and your specific warm up. For instance, Tuesday's workout for us was 30 minutes on a rower. You and a partner just accumulate distance. So you take 10 minutes off of that, you take the 30-minute workouts, you have 20 minutes to basically get people warmed up and to teach the rower and to like figure out all their stuff and a bathroom break. So what I did is I got rid of the general warm up and just combined them. So it was just one warm up, got on the rower, we found our partners, we practiced transitions, we did a little pacing, we did a little pre-test, bathroom break, and then workout. So it didn't, in that case, with the single modality, single movement, it didn't really make sense to have the general and then the specific. We'll just do one warm up for that. Does that make sense, Sarah?
Yeah, that makes total sense. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And anybody else done that? Jessica, you came off.
Well, I was just going to say, that's a great example of like how now I welcome days like that, whereas before I'd be scared of that. Like I would say most of the other coaches in our gym would die if we were just doing Fran and we weren't doing anything else. And they would be like, well, what else are we doing? And I'm like, guess what? That's your job to figure out how to fill that hour. So now it's like a great way to, a great opportunity to challenge myself and maybe even get a little creative during those days. So that's like, I'm so thankful for this group because like I used to be scared of days like that. So.
And you're not the only one. I forget who mentioned that. It was in the chat a while ago. I think DT posted like a challenge, like make a lesson plan for this 6-minute workout. And somebody posted like, do you guys do this? I don't know how to do this. I was like, yeah, Cap does it all the time. It's actually really, really great for teaching. Kapua's nodding her head. Like it's so much easier than trying to fit like 6 things in. Yeah. Cool. Oh, and then I guess we did forget one thing, and I mentioned it in my little spiel there, but a pre-workout or like a practice round or all that. Let's see here. Before doing a lesson plan, it was difficult figuring out how to fill the class right away. Yeah, so and that's exactly why we do it, Stephen. Exactly. Yeah, so this last thing would be the practice rounds.
Like a WOD build-up type thing?
Yeah, WOD build-up. I call it practice round, WOD build-up. Yeah.
Or
same.
what is Christian say prove it round or
Move
something?
it around. Yeah. And so what is the point or the purpose of a prove it round, WOD build up or a practice round?
I mean, getting them ready for like high power, like high output, just see if they, or the weight that they've chosen, like, are they gonna be able to handle it, for multiple rounds or whatever?
Yeah, exactly.
With
Especially
other
if you,
movements.
what's that, Kapua?
Like maybe they can get a push jerk in at a certain weight, but if there's other movements in there, and then when you finally combine them together, it's like, okay, now.
Yeah. And that's a good time to check back to your whiteboard brief too. Like Steven was saying, it starts the whiteboard brief. If you say, hey, you should be able to do 5, but no more than 10, and you say, all right, guys, we're doing the practice round. You're going to do 7 reps. They need to be unbroken, and they can't do it. Like, buddy, that's too heavy then. Yep, Jessica, 100%. Logistics, people moving around, transitions. All of a sudden, you do the practice round, and there's 3 people trying to use the same pull-up bar. Like, come on, guys, what happened? Work those kinks out, and that really helps you. You find that what's going to work for you. It's almost like it can also be like a prove it round for your coaching eye too. Like you can look and see like, oh, I'm going to have issues with this person on this movement. I need to keep that in the back of my head. Things like that. But yeah, no, all those are good things to keep in mind for that.
This has become a challenge as well, getting back to the culture, because our athletes aren't used to that. And so I've been kind of, dipping my toe in that and trying some of that stuff. And they're like, whoa. But then after class, sometimes they're like, that was really helpful. Like, thanks for doing that, because I thought I was gonna be able to do the, plus weight, and I needed to drop it down or whatever, so instead of doing it in the middle of the workout.
And that's a really good point too,
Trying.
Jessica. Like that's the perfect thing. That's a perfect thing to check in with them at the end of the workout. Be like, hey, I had you take 10 pounds off. What did you think? And they're like, yeah, that saved my life. And you're like, yeah, right. So next time we know, maybe we need to keep it a little bit lighter. We don't need to maybe, do that or.
Right. And just that trust, like building that trust with them,
Mhm.
like we have their best interest in mind,
100%. I think Jay said that in the call is like, everything that I tell you to do, I'm telling to make you better. Like, I'm not trying to do this to watch you crash and burn or die. Like, I want you to succeed.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the general and then the specific warm up and the difference between the two. And then let's review some lesson plans. So let's just say generally, what is the general warm up going to look like compared to the specific warm up? Or what should it look like?
Usually for us, it's like get your heart rate up and go through some range of motion. That might be more like stretching than specific movements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything else? Anybody? Blood flow, heart rate up. Steven said, yep, agree with that. So then let's go the other one, specific warm up. What's that gonna look like compared to the general?
Definitely start moving anything that's in the workout that hasn't been taught yet, right? And then anything that's my focus of the day. Like if I have a focus of the day, like there's all these things in there, but I don't got to teach burpees so much. I don't got to teach setups. I'm going to work on pull-ups. So then that's where I'll have pull-ups in my specific warm-up or something like that.
Yeah. I like that. What's a fantastic thing to include in a specific warm-up? I think you kind of touched on it a little bit there, Kapua. This is where you're going to want to like use your progressions. So this is where you can really layer in, like you said, mentioned pull-ups. You're not going to say, hey guys, go do pull-ups. You're going to start with some beat swings. You're going to go to kip swings. You're going to work on the kip, and then you're going to go into the pull-up. So the progressions are a really good thing to use in your specific warm-up. And that's not to say that they can't be used in the general. Pieces can be put in the general for sure. But yeah, I like you said, general, we're just getting moving, get the body temperature up, the blood moving, assess how we're feeling. And then the specific warm-up is specifically geared towards those things that we're working on in the workout. Use those progressions. And I like what you said there, Kapua, about dividing the time based off of what needs it. And we're going to talk about that when we go into some of these lesson plans. And then
If you have like a strength piece, I don't know, I don't even know if CAP does that anymore, but we have like, still have the strength bias type of, where it's like weightlifting or like a skill.
strength.
And then the WOD, yeah. So if we're doing like a movement for the strength, but it's completely different than what's in the workout, sometimes I struggle with, should we go over all those movements during our specific warm up, or should we let's go over the strength, like the lesson plan that I put in, we did like alternating dumbbell box step ups. And that was just like honestly, all it was like pre-fatiguing their legs for the workout. I mean, that's all it did. So we went over that, and then they did it. And then we went over like the overhead plate lunges and the box jumps that were in the workout after it. So do you just decide, like, depending on the day when you go over, so it's not overwhelming at the beginning? Do you know what I mean? Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
And I do like the way that you did that, where and I would have to do this sometimes at Brew City, where if for some reason the strength does not match, which I hate.
I mean,
Like,
it's dumb. I'm just doing it because that's what we're doing, but
yeah, no, I get you. And I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this as well. But I personally, what I would do is I do the general warm up. I would do a specific warm up specifically for that lift skill, whatever, and then reset, like you said, go over what we need to do for the workout, give you time to build up, and then do like the workout prep and then the workout itself. Yeah, that's how I would do it. I don't know how you guys feel. And that's where you can see how this like starts to eat up time.
yeah.
Because there's a lot of transitions, a lot of build up. Yeah.
Yeah, so just to speak on that, today we have pausing snatch deadlifts, 2 of those, and then a snatch pull for our strength. And then in the workout, we have overhead squats, and it's fairly heavy overhead squats. So our coaches note the warm up, it's a little lengthy on the warm up, so we kind of cut a round out, but we got the general warm up, and then there's a specific warm up we got in. We had about 6 minutes to teach the pause deadlift and the snatch pull, in a sense. Let them run through it for 14 minutes. And then right when we broke that down, we went right into the teaching of the overhead squat. And that kind of like led them into warming up for the workout and kind of going from there. NC Fit does cram a lot, so it was like moving the athletes through, but it how we structured it, and we took some things out. It flowed a little bit better like that, but it still is hard to try to fit all that in within the hour.
Yeah, thanks for that, Stephen. I think you bring a good point. Like if you do a strength plus Metcon, that should be how you do it. Like the strength is related in some way, shape, or form to what you're going to do in the workout, because otherwise you just run out of time. Yeah. Did it help, Jessica? And the other thing you can do, and let's do, I want to say this one thing, and then let's actually review your lesson plan if you're okay with that. And we'll kind of like go through, give you feedback on it. Did you do this workout already? Was this today's or that was yesterday's? I see. So you can kind of like, you could like weigh in and say like, oh, that would have been helpful. Or
It was yesterday's. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So one thing I would say too, is if you are running low on time, I'm just looking at it right now. It says 3x16 double dumbbell box step ups, 1 set every 3 minutes. Maybe it's like you're doing 1 set every 2 minutes. And boom, you got 2-3 minutes back right there. That's your bathroom break. So that's one way that you could like still do the stuff, but then you're changing the timeline just a little bit to give yourself more teaching or
right
there.
Yep.
So cool. Does everybody have the ability to see the lesson plan? Otherwise, what I can do is I can share my screen and pull it up if you guys want to do that. Otherwise, I'm looking at 2 different screens right now.
Where would we be looking?
It's on Slack.
Okay.
The general thread, I'll tag you in it. It's where you where is it now? It's where Christian posted about the lesson plans. Oh, I can't find it.
And
It's super messy.
It's under homework
homework, right?
Tagging you in it
in
right now.
Slack. I think everybody kind of just like posts them under one.
Yeah, you should.
feed.
I should see a notification.
Yeah,
from
I see it now. Thank you.
Estefania's using the cell too. I'll tag you as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So if you guys want to look along, we'll just kind of look at this lesson plan. And I think this is great, Jessica. Like, you don't need to do it all nice and pretty in an Excel sheet or on the computer. Whatever works for you.
I think if the other coaches were using it, it would be somewhere else, but nobody, I don't think, does a lesson plan. So
Mhm.
it's to my chicken scratch.
Yep, and that's fine. Chicken scratch is good. I do all mine in Excel because I have to take it from the CAP website, put it into Excel, and then put it into Wodify because they don't.
Yeah, it's
they don't
great.
publish
I,
anymore. Yeah, but
You're right.
I also change a lot. And Steve and I were talking about this at the very beginning. Is if you do get a lesson plan from your provider, CAP, NC Fit, Mayhem, CopTrain, whatever, you should be making modifications. And we'll talk about this as we go through because of equipment limitations, because of your specific clientele, because you got too many people, or, you know, whatever it is. So you should be making changes. About 75% is a good place to keep. 75% of what they say, 25% make it your own. I see.
yeah, and something I didn't include on this is, again, trying to give them a why. Like, why would we do dumbbell box step ups to begin with? I don't have that on there because it was just something that I was going to say, like, a great tool to improve explosiveness, squats, deadlifts, build the posterior chain, all that kind of stuff. So I've been trying to give them a why, even if I'm not really sure what it is, like why we would do that before this workout, but just giving them something so they're not like, well, this is dumb. Why are we box? It's because it's more of an accessory type
Mhm.
movement.
That's great. And here's the thing, even if you're full of shit, they're not going to know it.
I mean, I'm assuming that's what box step up, would do, obviously. So I don't know.
Yeah, and just looking at so the the workout for those that maybe aren't watching on looking at the lesson plan, it is a 4-minute AMRAP times 5 sets. So 5 rounds of a 4-minute AMRAP with 1 minute in between. That's a long workout. 10 burpees, 10 overhead plate lunges, 45-25, and then 10 box jumps, the normal height, 24-20. And I could see you're pre-fatiguing the legs, but you're also working on, if you've held some heavy kettlebells while you're doing step ups, those box jumps are going to feel pretty light. And so the explosiveness, I think that's a pretty good way to kind of explain it.
Okay.
Yeah. And chances are, if nobody asks, hey, nobody asks, but
Nobody does. Nobody asks,
just in
but
case. Yeah. So that
I
you
feel like I
plan,
need to know why.
you know, to plan, you plan to fail. So if you
Yeah.
hadn't have thought about that, somebody would have
Right.
asked, and you would have had to pull something up. Yeah.
And I think it helps to build like what you said you're trying to build, right? Like trust, that they trust that, hey, you're gonna take care of me. Everything that I put in here today is for your benefit, and here's why.
Yeah, I've been really trying to give them a why every day for anything. Like, why would we do intervals? Like, even giving them working at a higher pace, than usual, because we know we get rest, like trying to just whatever, give them some extra stuff.
Yeah. And you'll notice that on mine. And that's something that Ryan mentioned. We were talking back and forth, is every single part of your class should have a stimulus, it should have a why, it should have a goal. Like, how hard are your people
Right.
working? Why are we doing this? And then what is the goal? What are we trying to get out of it? And that's next level, right? And we'll talk about that as we go through this. But just the fact of just putting down, and if you watch the original video, if you just put whiteboard brief, general warm up, 5 minutes, this, then the specific warm up, then the workout, and the cool down, that's better than not doing anything, because you at least have your I need to start the workout at
Right.
15, right?
Yeah, like
exactly
that dead stop time.
dead stop time. And at the very minimum, that's what we need. Now, everything else above that, that's what's going to make you the better coach. And like, to be frank, if you want to be a level 3, you should be doing that. And it's just going to make your classes run better.
Mhm.
So let's dig into this if you don't mind. So you have whiteboard brief, 0 to 3 minutes. I think that's an appropriate time frame. The only feedback that I would have for you is, what are you going to say?
I gave them like, you know, the why for the box step ups, and I definitely gave them the overall goal for the workout, like, you know, to match or come close with their scores and times each round instead of falling off. I don't have that on there, but
Yeah, and I see you have some notes at the bottom there.
yeah, I have a few things on there.
Yeah. And that would be, again,
Try to make alt movements unbroken, you know, just that kind of stuff.
yeah, and not to say that mine is perfect, because I know it's not. But if you look at mine, like I have my whiteboard brief at the top. I have this, what the workout is, what the stimulus is, what the modifications are. And then I think I have like goals that potentially. So if you just write all that stuff out, then you don't need to like think about it at the whiteboard. You know
Right.
exactly what you're going to say. Highlight 2, maybe 3 things that are like really important for the day. So that would be the only thing that I would say on the whiteboard brief part is actually write it out. Because you kind of get it out of your brain and you won't have it cluttered around there. And that's something too, like you can quickly just like, this is all on my phone. So like, okay, boom. I know what right?
Like, I know I don't have it on there, but I know I also said about like the burpee might be the limiter for some. If your heart rate gets too high, you guys can step back and step out, like that kind of a thing.
Yep.
That's kind of the stuff I would say at the whiteboard.
Yeah. No, and that's all great stuff. And I know you got it. Just write it down.
Yeah, write it down just so it's there.
Yeah. That's what gets you the A+ instead of the A.
Yeah.
So then general warm up, you got 5 minutes for this, 2 rounds at an increasing pace, 8 up downs. And then I'm assuming second round is 8.
Samson. Yeah.
8 Samson lunges, 8 alternating step ups. And then you would go to jumps and then 2 plates, ground to overhead plus a lunge. So yeah. And then you're doing burpees, plate lunges, and box jumps in the workout. I think that's very appropriate. You start off with nice reduced range of motion with the up down, and you increase Samson lunge, warming that up, getting the boxes out right there, and you're starting with the plates as well. I think that's a pretty decent warm up. The critique in me would say, like, you know, maybe write down the whys. And then the other thing that you can do too is, what are you looking for? Because a lot of these tool or things that you have picked are precursors or in fact, the actual movement that you're going to be doing later. So you can start to use this to start training your eye to those people. So looking at the up downs, what are you looking at in your athletes?
Well, and while they're doing it, I'm kind of saying like, maybe not so much on the up down, but on the burpee, you know, make sure your chest and thighs are touching the ground. You guys open the hips at the top. And I always tell them, I don't care if they jump. I just want them to open their hips and knees. So a lot of them will just stand tall, you know. Samson lunges, like, you know, make sure you're pushing that back hip forward, reach overhead, lean back, you know, get the most out of that stretch. And I always do it with them, kind of like show them, but on the step ups and jumps, and, you know, open the hips at the top, alternate, you know, feet. You're leading with like no rebounding. We don't or I try to get them to not rebound. Just kind of talking them through. Plate ground to overhead, like this might be how you guys bring the plate overhead in the workout when we do the lunges. Make sure you guys lock out, elbows locked out, you know, nice and tall, shin, you know, show them like how their shin touch the knee, all that on the lunges. So I just kind of demonstrate it as they're doing it and talk them through it most of the time.
Yeah. And then I would say, again, I didn't see the class. I would demonstrate a couple and then let them move, but then walk around and correct.
Yeah.
Where you're, you know, going to assuming you have aspirations for level 4 for seminar staff, you need to always be seeing, teaching, and correcting. So if you move around, you can look at, like, you know, you said this 8 step ups and then to the jumps. You can be watching their knees and be like, hey, I need you to keep your knees out. On the lunges, like, hey, your feet are really narrow. Let's widen that up so you have a better balanced base when you're doing this.
Right.
And also let you say their names and give out more cues. I think in the level 4 or the practical, the coaching feedback one, we say you should be able to give 60 cues in a class, 1 per minute. And if you don't give any cues in the general warm-up, it's gonna be really tough to do that. But if you start pushing these things
Yeah.
out, hey, I just need you to push your knees out a little bit on that step up. And Sarah, widen your feet a little bit in that lunge. And then Stephen, I need you to punch up on the bar or on the plate while you're doing that. Lock those elbows out. You're getting those touches and you're helping them fix problems before they occur in the workout.
Right. And they don't realize their elbows are bending as they're holding the plate either. And you see them kind of fix it, so.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great warm up there. And I think 5 minutes is probably appropriate. Was that about?
It was about 5. Yeah.
Okay. The other option to be like, make it a 5-minute AMRAP, get as far as you can kind of thing. And then you have specific, and it looks like,
It was like 3 minutes just for the dumbbell box step ups for me to show them and talk them through it, because it's not super complicated. So I just had them do like 6 after but I showed them, how to do it, talking about leading with, alternate your leading foot, keep your chest tall, drag through the heel, open your hips at the top, alternate your foot coming down, like just those little things. And
Yeah.
then watched them do a couple reps. And if their chest was falling, because that tends to be the first thing that happens, then we just kind of correct that and work on that.
yeah. And I like that because you wrote down the things that you're looking for. So you know it ahead of time.
It's just like in my head now,
Yeah. And that's like knowing the points performance of the movements. They're in there. You don't need to think about it. You just
Mhm.
see them. So taking that time and say, what are the most common faults that I'm going to see in this movement? Jot them down. How are you going to fix it? Now you could make a lesson plan that's like 6 pages long.
Yeah.
Like each section of the workout could have, or class could have its own page, and you could get super technical, like drive through the front foot. If I see this fault, what is a tactile, what is a verbal, what is a visual cue I'm going to do to fix this? Now, I don't suggest you do that. That's a lot, but if it helps you,
Yeah,
maybe-
that's a good way to study, like for the L3, probably like with the foundational movements and stuff.
100% it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you write out your step of the progression. What am I looking for? There's a fantastic coaching development program, one they sent out for the push jerk, where they went through the push jerk progression and they went step by step. What are you looking for? And how would you fix it for all these common faults that you would see? So then you did your 10 minutes for your dumbbell box step ups, once at every three minutes, can increase the load.
And it didn't take 10 minutes. It was because they were done at like 7 or 8, because we went at 0 at 3. I probably could have cut that back, like you were saying. So they would lift and then they would go grab some other dumbbells when they were done before the next set. So
Yeah.
2.5 probably would have been fine.
Yeah. I think that's fine though. Like you have, you got some extra buffer then, but
Yeah, we were able to have more time for talking about the burpees, the lunges, and the box jumps.
Yep. And I see.
And I had them use the restroom like after the dumbbell step ups, but we probably could have done it right before the workout, since it was a long workout.
Yeah. And that's up to you. I would just make sure that you make it known that this is your only time. So that way you don't have people taking a bathroom break then and also before the workout. That way you're just not losing half your people and doing it twice. And then it looks like you had 4 minutes to review the burpee, the overhead plate lunge, and the box jumps, which if you look at your general warm-up is kind of like almost a specific warm-up too. Because you had that lifting session in there.
Yeah, so it was kind of just brief review. We talked about like, you guys can do walking lunges if you want, but make sure your hip opens, between, and don't, keep that closed hip and that kind of stuff, because they like to walk and lunge, which is fine, but it's like, make sure
You get all the way tall.
just like you guys can reverse lunge if you want to, but just make sure you're hitting all these things. So, and then the box jumps we did in the warm up. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, like kind of combining the specific and the general because of time constraints. So if you look at this, you do have a pretty tight class.
Yeah.
Not a lot of time to do that. So combining and making the general warm up both a heart rate raiser, core body temperature raiser, and kind of going over the movements, I think is a smart idea on this workout for the day. And then you got your workout then, 27 to 51 minutes, longer workout. And then you have your cool down 51 plus. So 9 minutes on a cool down could be a little bit high.
Yeah. Yep.
I think 7 minutes is what Jason said he always likes to use, depending on the day, like what is planned in the workout. Maybe I'll do 5, but I always like to keep it at or above 5. I think anything less than that's kind of putting too close. So you could have gotten another 2 minutes to spend teaching burpees or the overhead plate lunge in that little pre-workout thing. But I mean, how did it run yesterday? When did you finish your class?
I mean, it almost, I mean, we did take a little bit extra time. I was doing the 5 and 6 a.m. and those people's digestive systems are crazy that time of day. So people are running to the bathroom and some of them are gone for 5-10 minutes. So that was kind of like, you know, we just kind of built in some
extra
30 seconds here and there. Yeah, those early classes are, you know, there's
that's a fantastic point.
when they have to go to the bathroom, like, I don't know if they have coffee on the way or what, but it's like, I gotta go. So it did run pretty close, but we did have 5+ minutes at the end. So we did do the calf stretch and they did a thread the needle on the floor. We just kind of did those together.
Awesome. And I think you brought up a really good point there. Like if you know your athletes and you know your gym, you account for that. Because if you know they're going to be in the bathroom for 5 minutes, plug it in, right? Or give yourself the time in, like, say that strength piece, like, hey guys, if you need to go, like, you can rest 2 minutes in between, run to the bathroom really quick. You can make
Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. And they just come right back out, jump right back in, and they know that they have to do 2 sets now.
Right.
You know, so yeah, that happens, but
Cool. Self-evaluation.
thank you for your help on that.
Yeah, self-evaluation. What do you think of your lesson plan? Is there anything that you know that you want to work on, or is there anything that you were really happy with?
I don't know. Sometimes I'm not sure. I like the general warm up. I feel like it could be more general and less specific, but maybe it was just this workout.
Based on the day, I think it's appropriate. I've done that plenty of times.
Yeah, there was a lot going on in there.
Yeah.
So then a question for you, Jessica, was this provided to you like in or what type of programming do you follow?
We're still using Two Brain.
Okay, so do they give you a warm up and all this stuff, all the steps?
They give us most, not most of this, like they don't give us any of they do give us the warm up.
Okay.
But I do kind of alter those quite a bit.
As you should.
So this one happened to be close to what they gave us, but it wasn't exact. They had the warm up like an interval style where it was like work, rest, but it was I thought it was just a little too much rest. Like it was like work 2 minutes, rest 30, work 2, rest 30 for a couple rounds. And our members would have just been like, why are we standing for 30 seconds? Like, you know, we can just move slower, but keep moving. So I changed that.
Yeah, I think that's 100% appropriate to do there. Cool. No, I think that was good.
Yeah, next time, like when I do mine for Monday, I'm gonna write all my stuff down, like even the little whys and things instead of just saying them, just so I can read them beforehand too.
And it's a process too. You're gonna find what works for you. And then how many classes a week do you coach?
Usually between like 13 and 15.
Okay, so a decent number. Almost full time there. So at some point you're probably gonna get really comfortable and you don't need to put as much work into it. You know, I'll do mine all at once and then I'll come back and all those little notes and the whys and the stimulus, it helps to refresh my memory. Like, oh yeah, that's why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
It helps to do that for a while just to kind of get all that information out and think about that stuff. But after a while, you can kind of ease off a little bit. You don't need to write down every single why for every step of the
Mhm.
progression, because at this point,
Yeah.
you're like, why are we doing this in the push jerk? Well, it's because it's the push jerk progression. I know what I'm looking for. I know why we're doing this. So that kind of thing.
It's definitely helped. I've been doing these lesson plans since I joined this group, like, I don't know, 9 months ago,
Nice. Yeah.
December or January. And it's like night and day, the difference, like just feeling more confident, and yeah, it's helped a lot. So
That's awesome. I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. I was making my coaches do lesson plans for like evaluations. I was like, well, shit, I should probably do them too. So I started doing that, and I've been doing them for so long now. I'm just
yeah,
like, I think I got, when I really started was at the beginning of the year. So like basically January. So I have 10 months of just like lesson plans in my Excel file that I just can pull from. And the nice thing is when that workout inevitably comes up again, got Annie, or like we did yesterday, or like Cap decides to repeat a workout, search it up, boom, got my lesson plan all ready to go.
You share these with your coaches also, Tony?
I do not. I expect my coaches to make their own, and I make it known to them that they are more than welcome to change things, go about it their own way. Yep, see you, Stephen. Because everyone coaches a little bit differently, right? So one of the things that I like to do, Michelle might not like to do, or Carly might not like to do. So I let them have that freedom. So if they look at that warm up, they're like, this is stupid. Change it, mix it up, and then because you got to know the class too. Like I said, today we got strict muscle ups. The evening class, there might not be anybody who has muscle ups. So it's like, all right, we're just doing strict pull ups instead. And so I give them that freedom to do that. I do, when we do the evaluations, I do make them send me their lesson plan so that I can give feedback on the lesson plan as well. Be like, hey, you know why your specific warm up didn't go very well today? Look at your paper. This is why this wasn't thought out well, right? You could have fixed that by planning ahead of time.
but in general, do they all do them? Because nobody does them.
Most.
None of the other coaches do it, and so so it's just me, and I don't know how to. I don't know. I mean,
Of the 4 coaches, there's me and 3 other coaches. I have 3 that regularly and consistently do lesson plans. One, I don't think that they do, only when they do their evals, because it's pretty obvious. It's just copied from Cap.
mhm.
We did a lot of coaching development on this. Like, we stressed it a lot about why we do this. So like basically all the stuff we went over in this call, but like, why do we do this? What are progressions? And so we spent a lot of time on it, and we did the coaching development program one, the dueling lesson plans.
Mhm.
And they were like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. And I think, let me quick look. I know we're running over on time here. I don't know if you guys got to head out or not. But just based off of our coaching developments, so we did lesson planning 1 month. We did dueling lesson plans the next month. We did modifying Cap lesson plans just last month. So that's 3 of them. And then we did a whole like Saturday morning series on lesson plan. Oh, sorry, that was lesson plan. So we did lesson plan session 1 was, what is the stimulus of the workout? Where I gave people a workout. They had to tell me what the stimulus was. And then we did lesson plan sessions 2 was the whiteboard brief. Here's a workout, figure out the stimulus, give a whiteboard brief. You have 3 minutes, figure it out, and then present it. And then we did warm ups and progressions, where we went through a workout, and we made a general warm up, and we made a progression for the specific warm up. And then we did a whole class together. We made a lesson plan together, and that was over the course of a month, just like half an hour to an hour every Saturday.
And what is that resource that you used for that? Is that through Cap?
No, which one? The dueling lesson plans?
Yeah.
Dueling lessons plans was, and that one, if you go to Slack, if you go to the general page,
Okay.
it's so there's the free CEUs from the professional coach
Okay.
that post that's pinned. It's like the 3rd one down. It says
Okay.
dueling lesson plans. And what that is that's DT and somebody else did a lesson plan for the same workout, and you just kind of compare and contrast.
Okay.
Why
I'll check
they do that. The other ones, I just did that myself. Like I just went to .com, found some workouts and said, all right, guys, tell me what the stimulus is. And then tell me what you would do for a whiteboard brief. Tell me what we would do for a warm up. And then we went through it together.
That's awesome. That's really bringing them up to the next level, you know? So when you, so do your coaches have access to CAP or do they have access to Wodify?
Both. Yeah. So they both, everybody has access to the CAP website to see what the programming is. And then they all have coaches access to Wodify so they can go on and back and see it. So you've met Carly. She will literally go into Wodify and make changes to the programming. If she's like, I want to make this a partner workout, like go for it. So she'll go in and do that. Like I'm going to Iceland in a week, so in 2 weeks. So like they're going to be just running the gym without me for a week, which is kind of terrifying. But like I know that Carly's going to be able to just like modify and do whatever she needs to because she has the authority and she's comfortable doing it.
Cool.
So yeah. I guess
And
any
then Okay, I will
questions?
change my lesson plan that I did. I wrote up one, I put it on the board, and then I did the class this morning and I was like, we don't even need to do, CAP had it like really, kind of like the typical what CAP has versus what you have to use. I mean, what you're gonna use, I was like, wow, they really are focused on the push press and the push jerk, but there's also sumo deadlift high pull and chest to bar pull up. So I definitely am doing some adjustments right now for the next class.
Oh yeah, that workout. Oh, that
Yeah,
was
there was so much stuff, and then it was like the push press, but the push press is not the push press was the strength. Push jerk was in the workout. So I have some good ideas of how to flow that together. Man, that was a tough workout for people.
What was the original day on that one?
Oh, sheesh. I have to go back and I don't even know. Oh, actually, I think I can tell by the Wodify link.
What's that? Because I remember that workout. I found it. It was the 14th. Yeah. So for the warm up, I changed the warm up to be a 5-minute AMRAP, 50-foot shuttle run, 10 scat pull ups, 50-foot shuttle run, 10 beat swings, 50-foot shuttle run, 10 kip swings. So you're kind of warming up for the
Same thing where I put the keeping the pull-ups already in there because if you follow the notes, there was no chest to bar pull-up work at all, right?
Yep.
Nothing is bulletproof. Always less plan. Yeah.
Yeah, so then I did like a chest to bar review, did the push jerk progression, sumo deadlift high pull progression, 4 minutes to load, bathroom break, go. Yeah, that's kind of what I did.
Yeah. It was like a strength. It was like a 4x5 push press, which I was like, we can use it to warm up with the push press. And then what if we make the last round jerks? Because jerks the movement of the day, so that's something that I think is going to change. But anyway.
Yeah,
Good one,
and I know
guys.
my gym, like they don't, like if we do like a strength day, like they'll build their workout weight and they stop. And like, go heavier. Like, no. I'm like, okay.
There were 3 guys who built heavier and they were
I
like,
almost-
we regretted it. We were smoked.
I almost always get rid of the strength work that CAP throws in there. Because it's not related, or it's like, I just know that my athletes aren't going to do it. So why waste the time? And that's at least my gym. It's the only gym I've been at that doesn't like to go heavy. It's so weird.
Unless it's clean and jerks, then of course they're all going to go heavy.
Even then, they don't like it. It's weird. It's so weird. They would much rather run, which just blows my mind.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a weird place.
I'm really interested in that workout you guys talked about on the rowing, the last call on Tuesday. Where you had to like count
Yeah.
your, because
Your strokes.
I'm
And
like,
then